that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we got 3 more minutes, but here we are, dude. So yeah, just warming up. What's your usual like thing that you do to get ready for an interview or just like kind of activate your state?
Oh gosh, I don't think I'm a good one to ask for that. I feel like if it's something like this, I feel like I just ignore it until the last second. So I'm not like thinking about, you know what I mean? Like thinking about my answers and trying to perfect things, and then there's no conversation. Do you know what I mean by that? So
Totally.
I'm just answering emails and doing work until the last second and then hop in. If it's a meeting that I like need to be prepped for, that's a little different.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, dude, I just like went and did some push-ups.
Oh yeah,
Drank
that was
an energy
a better
drink.
idea. that's great. Well, maybe I'll be a little low key and you can be high key, and we'll compromise somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
So where are we live? Do you know?
Well, I'm gonna post this embed to the Facebook group and just see how that goes.
Happen. Yeah. Okay. I dare you to. I double dog dare you.
All right.
I like that T-shirt.
Oh, dude,
you're like well branded for this interview.
Dude, that's what I was thinking.
You thought it through well. Your monitor must be like really high up there.
Yeah,
I feel like you're like looking.
I have like a crink in my neck, dude. So like I have to put everything super high or else I can't, like my neck starts to hurt.
That's interesting. So like how super high though? You're I guess maybe not that high. I'm trying to figure out how high you're. Is it on the ceiling?
Yeah, I mean it's like I guess right here. Is that, can you see that? Like this?
Yeah, that's pretty. Like that's pretty high.
Where it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, dude, have you like as you're working on stuff, like noticed your body just being like, I hate this?
Yeah.
As we're getting older.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got this just for that reason. One of these.
Hold on.
To be able to do this all day long.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh, that's sexy.
So at least I change a little bit from standing to actually I probably spend the most time on a stool and then standing and sitting a little bit.
Dude,
I'm on a stool right now. I don't know why, but a stool gives me like a little bit of rest and enough just to like move around a little bit too.
Cool, man. Well, dude, let's just go ahead and dive in. It's 1:30.
All right, let's dive. I'm up for diving.
Sweet. All right, so just our warm-up question. I'm really pumped to have you here on the podcast, Cory. This is 3rd time you're on, man. You're like killing it.
When do I get a robe? How many times? Is that 5 times? 5 timers club?
Yeah, you also have to grow your hair out a little longer
and buy the robe.
Yeah, dude, that's part of it.
Grow the hair out? What's that? Is that a thing?
Yeah, dude. I mean, you got to look like Jesus.
Okay. Oh, I see, like a Jesus robe.
Yeah. I mean, that's where my head was at.
Okay. I think it's SNL has a 5 timers club where you get like a robe that says it was your 5th time hosting or something like that. I might be making that
awesome.
up though.
I'll have to look that up.
Our references are like going over each other's heads.
Oh man,
as we're going.
That's why we need a warm up. So
that's good warm up question. Perfect. We got that out of our way.
Warm up question is, what's like one of the weirdest, silliest things you did in high school or college? We'll maybe do like a couple stories of both to get this thing moving.
Okay. Yeah. So I feel like weird was definitely high school. And then college was like toning down the weird and trying to like bring that creativity into something a little more constructive. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there's plenty of weird things in high school. Man, I remember at the last second, some friends and I said, hey, today's the basketball sectional. Let's ask if we can be let out of school and run to the basketball sectional, which is at a neighboring school 17.2 miles away.
Interesting.
and so we dribbled a basketball all the way to this, and then like the bus passed, you know, with the basketball team eventually, you know, when we're like halfway there, they honk and we wave. We're like all pumped. We think we're gonna like walk in, everybody's gonna get so stoked, you know?
Yeah.
But 17 miles is a long way when you haven't thought about
shit.
running 17 miles. And so we get in there and it's past halftime. And we come in the back exhausted and like completely worn out. Nobody cares. We're losing by a lot. It's just this big wasted time and just terrible wear on a body that wasn't ready to run 17 miles at that moment in my life.
Did you run a lot?
Anyway,
like, why? Yeah.
I'm not even exactly sure why we thought that was good. I don't even know why that's the one that came to my mind. I feel like there's plenty of weird things, but that's the one that came to my mind at this minute.
Okay, for me, one of the weirdest things that I did was so we were in a band, right? Like that's part of our origin story, and like which
the band was. Who would you say is the band that was kind of closest representative to the band? What was the name? What was the band name, first of all?
Okay, if most representative, I would say maybe like Newfound Glory or Fall Out Boy. Kind of in vain. Like we covered only Blink-182 songs for an entire year before we like really started going for it. So very reminiscent of that sound.
Yeah.
But then Screamo started to happen, and we started to kind of get a little bit more angsty. But it was always like we were very gimmicky. Like every show, we wanted to do one thing that was like totally not normal or like something really unexpected. So it actually is kind of like what made our band awesome. Like nobody really came to see us because our music was good. We actually like sucked really bad until high school. But we had tons of people come to our shows because they were so ridiculous. So like one of them was actually, this is the same show. This is ridiculous. So this one show is like an outside amphitheater where, so like Louisville, it was called Yuppie Fest. There were tons of bands, like 3 stages. And this one day, it was like super hot in the summer. So we showed up, got set up, and like there was our stage was kind of in a little corner area because we were not well known enough to like get the amphitheater. And there's this big huge bush behind the stage, so we just like went off stage, went behind the bush, and took off all of our clothes, like down to our boxers, covered ourselves in shaving cream, and ran back out and played our set like basically covered in shaving cream.
That sounds like a band inspired by Blink-182.
We also, at a certain point, like threw out to everybody, like threw out shaving cream cans. And so there was this massive shaving cream war, which stole everyone from all of the other stages to come and hang out with us. So that was really good. Really good times there. But then at the same show also, we had no merch because none of us knew how to design, or like we didn't have enough money to buy t-shirts or whatever. So we just like went to a dollar store and spent like $50 at the dollar store buying random shit, and then just like wrote our names on everything
with marker.
Yeah,
or like stickers or
no, like the thing that hit the best was kitchen gloves, like yellow rubber gloves.
Yeah, those are classic merch.
Yeah, so people bought those like candy, and everyone was wearing them. By the end of the show, the band's
your first foray into branding,
dude. It was
really branded that show with the yellow glove show.
Yeah, dude, that's what people remember it as to this day.
Yeah, have you ever heard of the band Hurrah Torpedo?
No, but it sounds like a band I would love.
Yeah, so we were a Hurrah Torpedo who nobody's ever heard of tribute band for one night, which is just really what they're known for is playing Total Eclipse of the Heart. You know that song?
Totally.
But on kitchen appliances.
Wow.
So we thought that was the funniest thing in the world as a high schooler, because of course you do. And so we just brought in all these kitchen appliances to our theater, and with like a crowd of I think well over 1,000, we just beat on we like practice like real songs like that we'd written, and then we decided like, hey, we're not very good. How do we just make something funny? And so then we just beat on kitchen appliances. And for a while when I was getting into video work, that was if you like searched my name in YouTube, that's like what would come up. And it was really embarrassing and terrible.
Wow.
And so it's taken a while to bury that nice and deep into the
dude. After this is over, I'm gonna go look that up.
Oh, I hope it can. I shouldn't have mentioned it because now I wonder if it can be found.
Oh man,
it's
someone who's listening to this, go find it.
It is yeah. There's a lot of beating on kitchen appliances, and a lot of ugly singing of Total Eclipse of the Heart.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah. Okay. So another ridiculous story from my end. I'd say college. Yeah, dude, the weird stuff that you do when you're in high school and college never ceases to amaze me. Like looking back, I just like cannot believe some of the things that I did. And this is one of them. So like in college on Valentine's Day, some random Valentine's Day, I had these two kids in I think I was a junior or senior. So like well past an age that I should be doing this kind of thing. I had these two kids on my floor. I was an RA also, which makes it even more ridiculous. But like these two kids that like, they had girlfriends that were not girlfriends. They were like, your Catholic kind of Catholic dating where you're not really dating, but they're like walking,
hanging out a lot
all the time. You're like, they're never separated. And I was just like, how can I make Valentine's Day like super awkward for them? You know, like how can I really dig out the fact that like everyone knows this is a thing? So I dressed up as Cupid. I put on like super short shorts, cowboy boots, fairy wings, and like a toga and a cowboy hat.
Luckily, you'll never regret this.
Never, dude.
This sounds like a recipe for never regretting.
I don't actually. And I had a revolver, like not a real revolver, a Nerf gun revolver. And so I just like went around campus all day long looking like this. And I just like found couples that, or just random guys and girls hanging out, and I would just like shoot them with the Nerf gun and then just sit there and watch as if like I was expecting something to happen, you know? And like
some sort of love.
Exactly. And because like I'm going to Ave Maria University and I know all of the drama anyway.
Between every person.
Yeah, exactly. Like it just was the perfect thing. I mean, nobody else. I mean, I'm sure some people were entertained by that, but it was mostly like a thing I did for my own enjoyment, you know, like which I would never do now. And that's kind of sad. So yeah, that's one good weird story for me.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear, I mean, do you have any other ones that come to mind? I don't know. Like
I feel like we're filled to the brim of weird stories.
Okay, cool. Let's move on. But I feel like one thing that I've always really resonated with that you talk about a lot and seem to really well, okay, I'll just say this. You seem to be very consistent in delivering super insightful, but also very strangely conceived art. Like, for instance, I think the video that you did for, was it NFP week last year?
Yeah.
It was just like a table with that. People were there. There was no actual shots of people. It was just audio of, like a baby starting to cry and like Cheerios getting spilled. It was just the same image of this table, like over the course of 2 minutes. And as I was watching that, I was just like, this is crazy. Like, how could somebody come up with this concept and then the next week you put up another video. I can't remember what it was, but I was just like shocked at also like how absolutely crazy it was. It was just so out of the box. So anyway, like it seems like the way that you live your life, somehow you're able to do these things that are so consistent creatively. So one of the ways I see that kind of coming out was in, you taught us how to do Spark sessions at the first summit. And as a team, like that's been something that's been really formative to us. But I think really like that kind of comes from a philosophy that you have of like creativity as play. It's kind of just like
Mm.
um you say this phrase of like banging on the walls and see if they're real. So anyway, I would love to just kind of hear some of your philosophy about like play as creativity and just, open up the podcast there and see where it goes.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I just think that that if we're not playing, then like there's no room for creativity. That's how I feel. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Hmm.
And so I guess like my story, and maybe I think I've told this to you before, but my story is like uh, th- I think everybody kind of goes through a desert of artisticness where, I grew up, loved art in high school, but really it was going into my senior year when I was signing up for all my classes that I saw that like, oh, if I sign up for one more class, that makes 8 classes, 8 art classes. And at my school, if you got A's in 8 art classes, then you got a special art certificate. So I made sure not to take that 8th art class, because if I did, then I would get that art certificate. And I thought at that moment that an art certificate means that you're lazy. And that's like my laziness degree. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah.
And so like looking back on that now, and I'm so far removed, like, but I've spent a long time just reflecting on that moment,
Yeah.
sitting there and signing up. So I signed up for a study hall that I didn't need instead of advanced ceramics, like, so like, I think that's like so tragic looking back of
Yeah.
not recognizing my love for art was just something that I loved. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't that I was lazy. It came easily to me because I was passionate and I cared,
Right.
and like the fact that we can, I think a lot of times, especially in our teens, we can like belittle caring. Like caring is,
Yeah.
and maybe that's specifically with our generation. I don't know of everyone else if that's true of their teenage years, but like the belittling of caring is so dangerous,
Yeah.
Um, and I think the same goes, like, I think play goes along with that, and just when we're trying to like, school is built for pumping out, like it was designed in the industrial revolution, pumping out
Yeah.
people to be great at working in factories,
Yeah.
and it's really good at that. And there is no room for play in factories. That
Yeah.
and maybe that's an overstep to anybody who's working in a factory right now, but I do feel like that's in general, factories are not made for play,
Yeah. Totally.
and so school has in turn tried to eliminate that out of students, and that's something that I have been reflecting on. Like I think it, in my opinion, our creative thought is the thing that really sets us apart from every other individual. Like that's, if I want to hone one thing in my career, right? If I want to hone one thing in my life, it's love. And if I want to hone one thing in my career, it's creativity. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And they tie together. And
Right.
so I don't know if that answers your question. I don't even remember what the original question was. But
Yeah.
that's where I rambled to.
Yeah. So like play being like an important part of what creativity, like the function of creativity kind of like comes out of play and caring. Uh
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned that project. So that project was whenever JB Talty, who's now working over near you, was in
yeah.
town, right? And so you mentioned Spark Sessions. So we ran Spark Sessions together, and that project took this wild arc where it started. We like wrote this piece about like dancing with TVs, like really bizarre thing. You know what I mean? Like, so these projects take these weird arcs where the ideas start somewhere totally different. Like it was this whole coordinated thing with this TV that turned and interacted and all this different stuff. And eventually it came down to this table, and partially it was just, we didn't have the finances for a cast, you know what I mean? So it turns into this empty table, but that's like more of a metaphor, and it works out well. Those restrictions, play out. And anyway, that kind of thing. So yeah, and I think it's only play that kind of gets you there and gets you past,
Yeah.
gets you through the TV idea was pretty bad, like
Yeah.
like dancing TVs, like it's pretty stupid, but like you got to work through those in play to make it to somewhere that like makes sense and is elegant.
Yeah. Can you tell everybody like what a spark session is? I mean, it's so simple. It's kind of like
Yeah, and it's
yeah.
it's very simple, and you feel like this is stupid for us to do. But my whole pitch towards it is that meetings are art killers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so somehow I have to interact with other people without having meetings. Does that make sense? Like, so everything that's involved with a meeting, I have to find some time to quote unquote meet with you without having a meeting. Does that make sense? And so Spark Sessions is our way of just figuring out a way to have anti-meetings. And so like the whole goal is that we're going to come up with bad ideas, and those bad ideas are welcome. And if we have to follow up with real normal meetings for productivity's sake later, that's fine, but that's not the time for this. We're not being productive in this moment. We're going to sit down and we're going to go through the project for a second, and then we're going to spend, you know, usually we do 3 songs just in quiet writing. And so I like to, you know, we say change your atmosphere. So a lot of times we go to an art gallery to do it with headphones, or there's a ballet studio downtown that we go to a lot where they're just, you know, there's dancers upstairs, there's a gallery downstairs, like that kind of thing. Or a coffee shop, whatever. Just change your location. Sometimes we'll just turn the lights off, you know, as simple as that in here, or, you know, blast the music and go outside, whatever. But, and then we try to change the device, like don't be on a computer, write handwritten. And I have a special notebook that I do it with, you know? And so you're just taking notes through 3 songs. And then after that you share and you interrupt each other. Oh, that idea made me think of this. You know what I mean? But you're not starting at the point of like, okay, do we have any ideas? Because whenever you start there, you're like, I think so. And whoever's the most boisterous wins, and so on and so forth. The whole point is like, just like our prayer life, where your prayer life, you need individual prayer and you need group prayer, right? There's a need for both. Like if you don't have community, something is lacking. But if you don't have individual prayer, something is also lacking, you know?
Right.
So in our creative life, like this just gives us, in kind of a 1-hour sprint, like gives us the time to have that individual time and have that group time. And so like, I think pretty much you can point to any idea that we've came up with for the last 6 or 7 years. And I can point you to a Spark session of where that idea stemmed from.
Yeah. And the idea being like sparking, your ideas spark out other ideas in the other people, even if they suck, right?
Yeah. So we do a whole, like, sometimes we just jump in if somebody just came into the office yesterday to run one and they'd never done it before.
Yeah.
So sometimes I just give them what I just gave you, you know, just a 30-second intro, and then we dive in. But we do a whole teaching where we walk through for an hour the reasons of like idea seeds, how they sprout, how they go together, and why it's important that we like bounce off of each other, how collaboration works, and then also like how to tell where you are in the process to make the Spark session the most productive.
Right. Dude, that's great. Yeah. So, I mean, the first time that you taught us that, you said that you start your every week with one of these Spark sessions. You guys still do that?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'm currently running as a solopreneur that brings teams together when a team is needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So I don't currently have someone in the office every Monday. Anytime I do, I start the week with a Spark session, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much. And whenever we have full-time apprentices come in every few months for 3 months, you know? And so we'll start every Monday whenever they're in the office with a Spark session.
So that's one of the things that I was so shocked by, and that was like looking at my week. What I started with before that was going through every project and every task that like we need to do. And that, like, the realization that I had was like, I'm not playing. I'm not like like creativity isn't the center of my week. Like productivity is the center. Right. And that actually like really, it was a really big dawning moment for me. And I still feel like I'm trying to learn how to put off the stress of like getting things done and give space to myself to just be like, I'm going to come up with ideas, even if I don't even have idea. Like it's not even for anything.
Right.
You know?
Right. Exactly. That is huge. I think that's really, it's a muscle, you know what I mean? And so if we're not stretching that muscle, like, and that's what my whole thing is like, our best ideas might not come out of this Spark session. You know, we might not build anything off of what we do, but like when we're ready to come up with something, we'll be ready, you know?
Yeah.
We'll be stretched and worked out and ready to run that 17.2 miles that I wasn't ready to run, you know,
Right. Yeah.
creatively. I don't know if we're even in the middle of an analogy anymore, but I think you get the picture.
Yeah. So when I would love to hear maybe like a time where you really felt like you were playing in the creation of something that you're really proud of.
Okay, let me think here. Yeah, I love that. Like, not, it doesn't happen every time with these Spark sessions. Some of them I walk out of them like being like, okay, well, I did it. You know what I mean? But some of them will have this moment of like, dang, that was it. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
the euphoric, like, oh, that's something to pursue. And then I'll spend the next 2 weeks pursuing, you know, this little seed of an idea. And so definitely a few of those come to mind, of just kind of coming up with this little thing to pursue and that I just want to trace down. So I'm trying to think like, yeah, even like we did one with like puppets last year, and so then all of a sudden I'm like going down the rabbit hole of learning all this stuff about marionettes and finding all the marionettes in town and actually the like tri-state area, and like you know, just like pursuing these. This last one, honestly, this last one was really exciting, where I was driving. This wasn't in the middle of a Spark session, but I dropped my son off at school, and then I was driving to work with this project on my mind, and I saw these two people at the bus stop speaking ASL to each other, right? American Sign Language. And it just was like, that's it. This project needs to be all in ASL. And so like went back and like wrote it, and then got a hold of some ASL speakers to like walk me through that. It was this whole community that I don't know. Like, I don't even really know anyone that speaks ASL.
Yeah.
But like I like, you know, joined all these Facebook communities, and like I'm learning about this whole community that I don't know about, and trying hard not to offend without being clueless, right?
Yeah.
But it was just so, I just love diving into these weird communities. Like I didn't know, we did a whole mural with Rubik's cubes. Like I had no idea that there's like a whole Rubik's cubes community, you know what I mean? And I found this guy in LA, and he like walked me through this whole process of how to do things, and he helped me like craft the whole thing. I kept sending him images, and he like, just because I don't know, I just wanted to do this crazy thing. So I don't know, those are things that come to mind at the moment. Those moments of play.
Dude, I love that. I mean, that's so freaking weird. Like JP2 and Rubik's cubes. Like just that
it was actually Pope Paul VI.
Oh, right. Pope. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Totally. Not to get your Rubik's cube popes mixed up.
Like, not only was that the idea that you came up with, but it's the idea you sold your client on. Like, I just cannot even fathom selling a client on that idea either.
And there's plenty of weird ideas that don't get picked up. You know? That definitely happens, where I'm like all excited about it. But honestly, it's so much easier to sell things that I'm sold on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Like, and so I've found that, and honestly, I just feel like it's getting more and more that way, and partially because I can probably point back to weird stuff I've done. I think it's probably easier to do interesting things whenever you can say, like, this was interesting and it worked. Here's a case study. Here's kind of, you know, how the numbers worked out, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
dude, that's great. So I'd love to hear in a way, like, what some of that journey has been for you, of like, what are the obstacles you've had to conquer in your life in order to be able to play like that? Because like, you were telling me earlier today about, you know, the story of just kind of seeing your sons and realizing that they're born with a desire to play, but also there's something that like naturally tends to hold us back from that. Like, what is that? Why is that there? And like, where has that been in your life?
Yeah, I think that's been, and this is something I haven't fully unpacked. So I've told that story for a while that I just told you about, you know, this high school self, not seeing the value in the arts. And so it's, part of me has just been really excited to I have 4 boys now, you know, and 4 boys, 6 and under, you know, so pretty young, rambunctious. We're on couch number 3 and TV number 3.
Hell
So,
yeah. Last one was paint, right?
Yeah, paint. And then this one, I should show you the one that replaced the one that was painted, because it's like a leather couch that's now been, all the leather has been picked off of it, and you're like, how do you even come up with this stuff? But, anyway, it's funny because it's always the 3-year-old, but that's a moving target. Like, so it's always whoever is going through 3 destroys a couch or a TV or both. Anyway, so anyway, it's been fun to see them grow up, and it's fun to like get them into the arts. Like it was kind of fun. Like my now 6-year-old like got obsessed with stop motion for a while. Like he was just playing with this app that would have stop motion and these Disney characters, and he's just like playing around, and like that's like so exciting. And I think what the story that I didn't realize, and I don't know, it's hard to, you're always putting yourself into your kid's shoes of like, what was I like? Because you look back at your kid's self from kind of an adult perspective is very different than having a child and seeing it afresh, you know?
Yeah.
And so like, I see that, like, I have this vision in my head that as a kid, I loved art and whatever else, but I see in my own kids that they can still be hard on themselves. Like, even at this moment, like all they have to do in life is play. That's the only job they have. You know what I mean? And in fact, even, you know, my 6-year-old's the only one at school, and he's going to a Montessori school, which is still just like play all day, you know, kind of idea, you know, like, and so, and still like, there's like times where they just get caught up in play, and they'll play for hours and hours and hours. And then there's times where that Lego falls apart or whatever else, and they're just like so hard on themselves. Yeah. And like, I just like, it's just become more clear that not everything is taught, like not everything is sucked out of us. Some of it is just purely original sin. Like, and that it kind of sucks, but it kind of gives me hope for what heaven can look like. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What do you mean by that? Like, that last statement was really cool.
Which statement?
About what heaven can look like that.
I just mean like, even the most innocent among us has still traded some innocence for brokenness. Does that make sense? By coming into a fallen world. And I feel like it's always like, I feel like that's the spiritual journey, is trading our brokenness for innocence. Does that make sense? Like, that's the direction we're going. And like, my reference to innocence isn't as innocent as heaven. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, my reference to innocence is my 6-month-old Fred. Like, that is as innocent as anything I can imagine. Right. Yeah. Like, there's nothing I can fathom beyond that level of innocence and what that looks like, and the purity. Right. And there is a purity to be known above and beyond even my reference point.
Yeah. I'm just looking back on my own life, and one of the earliest moments that I can remember of like that kind of thing that you're expressing, of being hard on yourself. I think I was like 5, and this is actually really one of my earliest memories, but I loved my brother and I. When we were growing up, my parents didn't have a TV. And we were like, never watched TV, just no screens. It was like always outside playing in the backyard, or drawing, or like listening to my parents tell stories, or doing what I could to try and read. So like we love to draw. And I actually kind of got like prideful about being good at art by the time, like when I was 5, like I remember thinking like, I'm pretty good at this. And so like I went to this lesson where there's a community, a Catholic charismatic community around us, and one of the parents was like a really amazing artist, and she invited all the kids to come over and learn how to draw pictures. And my parents brought me there, and she was going through the step-by-step, like how to draw a lion. And like about 3 steps in, after I'd drawn 3 different circles, and, you know, I started to get bored, and I was like, I got this. I'm just going to draw a lion. You know, I'm just gonna do my thing. I'm gonna draw a line. So I just started sketching it out, and as I'm going, like my image is getting worse and worse, and I'm starting to see the people around me like making really cool, way better images of lions, and I just like got so upset. Like I remember like breaking down, having like a, I don't know, just a, yeah, like tantrum about it. Or my parents had to like comfort me and tell me it was okay that like my image wasn't as good as like these other kids. And it's just like, man, that is like the artists, like
Hmm.
that's it. That's it,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
still doing that. Like I'm still doing that.
Still looking around and finding the people doing a better job.
In a way, yeah. I mean, I feel like I've grown a lot in my ability to kind of like be satisfied with my own skill and like not
Sure.
find my value in that, which is something that like I'd love to talk about more. But like I do think it is really interesting to look back. Like nobody told me that I should be prideful or like nobody told me that that was bad and that I was a failure. I just had this internal impulse that led me there. So I think you're right. Like I think there is that like it's inside of us really early on.
Yeah.
For you, like how did that start to I don't know, like start to happen in your own life? Like are there memories that you have of kind of like that play creative impulse in you being shut down, whether it was by something outside or inside, you know, like uh, doesn't matter.
Repeat. Dive into that question a little bit more. What are you?
Yeah, I'm like notorious at asking these like
No, no, no.
five-part questions that make absolutely no sense. Yeah. So
A
like for
time that it was shut down.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
saying?
a time when like your own creative impulse or yeah, your ability to play was turned off in you.
Yeah. I don't know why, but a memory that I haven't thought about in years came to mind immediately when probably because it's similar to your story that you just said,
Hmm.
right? So I remember there's this like festival. In fact, it's still going on. Like of I don't know all the local schools and like an art project, right?
Hmm.
And I remember you're just supposed to listen to me. It's funny because it's relating to Spark sessions now that I think about it. Because you listen to music and you make a painting, right?
Yeah.
Is
Mm.
like the shtick, and like somebody will win from that of like what kind of best represented this music.
Mm.
And all I remember was like I had caught a picture of I'd caught like a glance of last year's winner of like I don't know, it was like a duck or something. And I was like, oh, that was pretty rad. I'll just do a dog. And just painted this picture of a dog that wasn't listening to the music at all. You know what I mean? like
Yeah.
like not even a little bit. And then get done and just like not I all I like the art had turned into a competition. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And that's
Mhm.
what I think I don't know. I just think that there's a little bit of danger right now we're in a spot culturally where like that's art as a competition is like really normal. Do you know what
Mm.
I mean? Like
Mhm.
like uh, even at home, every once in a while we're turn on The Voice or whatever that dancing one is or something.
Yeah.
And like I that like gives me that something doesn't sit right. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
art as a competition. And so I think just like in that moment, like it was a competition. Like I cared about winning in that very moment.
Yeah.
And it was like it like still just kind of disturbs me a little bit of
Mm.
art as a competition, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, I feel like that is in so many ways the journey that God has been taking me on through my life. Like
Yeah.
my band, the reason why I started it was like there were two. One was I loved music and it in a way I felt myself and I felt free in its expression and in the culture that was around it. Like there was this kind of like F the man attitude.
Mhm.
It was kind of like an inversion of the very, at least of what I perceived in high school to be like very stratified social hierarchy where everybody's like trying to kind of like one up each other. Whereas like my first experiences of going to shows, it was like everybody was pushing each other around. Like bands sucked, bands were great. Bands are just like invite random people up on the stage and have them scream into a mic with them. Like I remember going to this one show that was a ska show. It's like the last of ska being a big thing, and this band like came out from like from the amphitheater. It was like at that same place I was telling you about earlier, but they
Yeah.
were all like shirtless, wearing Indian headdresses, and that was their thing. It was just like so silly and playful, and like whereas before, like everywhere else in my life, I had to be super careful and be thinking about like what should I say right now? What's cool? And in that moment, like all that was cool was like jumping into the pit, kicking your legs around and looking super silly and stupid. And that was like so freeing. So like, I loved music for that reason. But very quickly, I pretty much as soon as we started to actually try to advertise for ourselves, it became a competition. It was like, what
Mhm.
band has the most people at their show? What like who's getting talked about on like Pure Volume or MySpace? Like who has the most friends? Who has the most plays? Like this started to just kind of like turn in me. And by the end of high school, dude, like it was just seriously about glory and like earning
Yeah.
approval.
I think every artist starts from this point of angst. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a little bit of angst in every artist, like this
Yeah.
restfulness. And like that angst like will explode at some point. Like
Mm.
and so we can like turn it inwards, you know what I mean? Like for fame or glory, like and like it will explode inwards. Does that make sense? Or we can like open ourselves up and like shoot it outwards, like and it's more like fireworks for others to appreciate the beauty of. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
there's I think finding a way to hone our angst and direct it in the right place that brings peace like is a big part of the artist journey.
Have you done both in your life?
Yeah, for sure.
What's the time
Yeah.
where you like exploded inward?
Yeah, I think honestly, so I took a big swing from, just I kind of even mentioned like high school was weird and college was like getting a hold of that, right? And so
Yeah.
like high school was like how can I get in front of people and just be, whatever. Um just to have attention pointed towards me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think really that's what made me eventually pick up a camera as like, how do I, because it just wasn't, there was never enough, like that
Yeah.
explosion was this like just constant, like, yeah, that high doesn't last. So I think picking up a camera was just a way of like finally like resting behind the scenes for a second. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not even until more recently. Like for a while, I couldn't play music in front of people just because like I couldn't play music. I just realized every time I played music, it was about me.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
I couldn't do that and like other art forms. And so really, it's just recently where I've felt more comfortable getting out from behind the camera. And being able to share in front of people without it being about me and finding a way to share things and still have peace.
Yeah. You were telling me earlier that part of that journey might have been like your family and
Mm.
how like in your family your gifts are not really what matters.
Yeah.
Is that a part of that like of that healing? And yeah, I'd love to hear just how some of the journey of kind of becoming okay with it not being about you, you know?
Yeah. I think my struggle might be different than a lot of artists as far as like, I really, a lot of times I like my work. You know what I mean? I don't think,
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of artists necessarily relate to that. And I can relate to, I've definitely had seasons where I hate everything I'm putting out and whatever else. But at this moment, like, and really, the last 5 years, like I can really appreciate, especially like, putting together the creative book and things like that, just
Yeah.
appreciating other people's work and like what they're pounding away at. And like your work is my work. And so like, I guess my struggle is more often on just like, finding my identity in that work, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think it's like my baby doesn't care that I made a film that I'm really proud of, or that I, you know what I mean, that I did this thing. And really, like, my wife doesn't care, you know what I mean? And I don't mean that in a bad way. She supports me and she's wonderful. But, you know, I was showing her this thing last night and she's like, hey babe, that's great, but we gotta, like, we said we were going to watch This Is Us together and we need to start it now to get to bed on time. And I was like, okay, great. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and so, like, yeah, if she was attracted to me in some way because of my art, like, there would be a real danger. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like that, like, it doesn't matter one way or the other. Like, they just, they don't find my worth in what I make, you know?
Right.
And so, like, that opens me up, I think, in a new way to also not find my worth in what I make, and to be able to be separated from that, you know, because I could lose my limbs tomorrow and not be able to make the same kind of stuff I'm making, you know?
Yeah.
And like, if I find my worth in my work, then there's a real big danger there. So I just think that that's the direction, that's the way that family has really just showed me that more clearly, that like, I have to find a detachment from that and not come home, you know, with any sort of pride in that way.
Right. Yeah, man, that's really profound. I feel like for me, my journey has been similar to that. Like, I can look back on my work from high school, like coming back and listening to my old band stuff. I'm like, my senior year, we're pretty freaking awesome. Like, I can appreciate that. And, you know, I can also like look at my stuff and be like, that's not that great, but like, that's fine. I'm not really so concerned about how good my work is versus how good everybody else's work is. But when it comes to like Catholic creatives or Sherwood Fellows, or I don't know, like those two things being weighty and important, then I get really, really like, then it matters a lot. So I feel like Catholic creatives for me has been this really interesting journey that God's used more to shape my own heart. Where when it first started, I was definitely I came in at a point where I felt like everyone else was better than me. And I had not made a splash. I had not made anything cool enough to earn anybody's respect. And so like Catholic Creative started and I was like, oh crap, I've got to earn everybody's respect and approval. I've got to make this community be valuable to everyone. And if anybody is upset or anybody is like not into it, that's like I haven't earned my place. And I think that really like that came out of a very similar place that you know, like my approach to high school came out of. Like, it's like exactly the same world. It's the brokenness of the world that's like, that teaches us you have to earn everything. You have to, like, no one is going to give you any hand up. You have to earn it for yourself. And so like I came into this community thinking I have to earn my place in it, even though I started it, you know?
Yeah. I think so. I just recently added to our apprentice orientation, right? There's a whole like orientation day where we go through things, and I just added to it recently. Like, I really believe beauty will save the world, right? The quote from Dostoevsky. Like, I believe that, and I believe what we're doing and making art is important, and like, it's good to like see that and recognize it. And at the same time, no one is going to die when you make something that sucks. Like, this isn't brain surgery. This isn't, you know what I mean? Like, like, you have to see both sides of that coin. Because if you only see one side, then either you don't care about your work, or you freak out, and you know what I mean? Like, and with every decision, and it's so paralyzing. So like, both sides of those coins are so important.
Yeah. But I think what's coming out of that for me from you to these, like, to your interns is like, you're giving them freedom
Mm,
to suck.
right.
Like, you're giving them freedom to have ideas that suck. You're giving them freedom to just like come up with whatever and it not have any pressure on it. And that's kind of like what you were doing in Spark sessions too. Like, you're giving people the ability to just play without there being any need to compete, without there being any need to like um to be responsible, quote unquote, in it. And that, I feel like, is that's what I personally, I would love Catholic creatives to be
Mm,
like. And I feel like I haven't really oftentimes given that to people because I've been trying to earn it myself.
yeah, yeah. Earning permission, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, like, I felt for, the first year and a half, all the way up to the summit, like, I had to earn my place by
Right.
making the community something valuable. And because of that, like, I was always so concerned about, okay, if somebody sucks, maybe they don't really belong here, because like then that'll make other people who I really respect think that they don't belong, because
Mm,
like, then it's not cool enough, you know.
right,
Um,
right.
and I feel like I've definitely, that time left its mark on the culture in a way that, I don't think is totally gone. And I guess in this next season, the thing that I'm dreaming for is for us to not care about how good each other are. Like, in the grand scheme of things, compared to the stuff that, I don't know, like, actual people that are famous are putting out, like, none of us are that great, right? Like, in a way, I just feel like there's, people look at like you or even me sometimes now and they're like, oh, like those guys belong because like they're doing awesome things. But dude, like, that's just the same way that the world looks at each other. Like, that's
Yeah,
not how we're
yeah,
supposed to look at each other as like part of the family of God, you know?
right.
Like, you, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so what could it look like for every person to have permission?
Dude, tell me about the school that you're making. I feel like that's kind of the point.
Yeah, so I'm just starting to publicly talk about this vision and kind of what it looks like. So this apprenticeship that I've been talking about, right, is kind of is the beta of what's to come, you know. And
Mhm,
so I'm just starting to kind of lay out what it looks like and talk to people who can help make it happen, that kind of thing. And so my whole thing is that college is failing artists, it's
mm,
just happening constantly. And so if there's not people with values, Catholics that are picking up the pieces to higher artistic education, then we won't have Catholic artists. Like, they just won't exist, right?
mm,
And so I think there are some things out there. I think there's some things out in the secular world where people are seeing that, like, college is failing artists and they're making resources. I think there's some things in the sacred art world, in Florence, there's some interesting things where they're picking up the pieces,
mhm,
and my question is, like, what does it look like to rebuild higher education for artists from the ground up?
mhm,
And so after doing this for the last four or 5 years of bringing in these apprentices, and my goal on day one during orientation, I say, you have two jobs this summer. Um, One is to teach me what you need to learn, like, show me what
mm,
what has been great about your education so far, what has failed, what does that look like? And two, help the next apprentice that comes through I want you to be jealous of that apprentice because of what you've helped build, right? So
mm,
building out a curriculum and things like that. So they're always adding, subtracting, adding resources to a curriculum, that kind of thing.
mm,
And so what we've kind of built out, and what we're trying to work towards is kind of this apprenticeship university
mm,
where there's a working studio, which is base, right? And so it's a 2-year program. You come into the working studio. The working studio is making things that can make money, right?
mhm,
And so the money that those projects are making, that you're working on the different aspects of, that money is going back to pay your tuition, right? To try to keep things more affordable. And
mhm,
so you're in the working studio doing that kind of thing. And then we bring in professionals to work on projects as well. But part of the contract with the professional is, hey, we're going to pay you your normal day rate or whatever it is that we're hiring you for, normal rate. But we ask you to do a presentation, a teaching on your expertise, right? And so we're building up this catalog. So when you come in, there's this back catalog of all these professionals that have worked in these projects, teaching a course on their, so we're getting professionals coming in to teach. But then what makes it really different is you're only in the working studio for 3 months at a time. And then the next 3 months, you're going out to apprentice with an organization or an artist in your field. And so you do that you're in the working studio for 4 sessions, and you're out in the field for 4 sessions. And so one of those 4 sessions has to be a business, some sort of business apprenticeship. So you're learning I think that's one of the most important parts of why it's so hard to be an artist right now, because we don't have a business mind, Yeah. And so one of those 4 is in a business related setting. And so you're spending those 3 months in the studio, 3 months in the apprenticeship, rinse and repeat, and making interesting things all the way, building up a portfolio. So that's what we see, kind of the rebuilding, and all throughout that is woven of what are our shared values, and kind of laying that out throughout the whole 2-year program. So that's what we're working towards.
Yeah, dude, that's super interesting. I mean, I feel like part of the question that I was asking that is like, you want to give people permission to make, and in a way, like, you want to shape the skill sets, but you also want to shape the heart, because like that's part of what is broken right now in the church. It's not just that, and in the world too. I mean, like what you said about school being a place where, like, we're teaching you how to become a part of an assembly line, like, so like, what are some of the ways that you see, actually practically speaking, helping to change the heart for people, like helping to give people permission that come into your school, or I mean, even just for your interns, like what's one way that you practically give them permission to just whatever,
Yeah. Part of it is, so with apprentices that come in, so we're working on things, their client projects, so on and so forth. There's some sort of boundaries there. We try to give as much permission as we can, but at the same time, a product needs to be done at the end of the day, which is important to learn. There's a lot of education there. I think that's really important. But as part of the curriculum that you're walking through, you're working on a passion project outside of the classroom, right? Mm-hmm. And so every Friday we have an hour blocked out of just going over that passion project. So what are you stumbling on? What are you struggling with? What are the big things keeping you away from finishing it this week? Those kind of things.
Yeah.
And just reach for something you don't think you can pull off, try and fail, and just trying to give permission, and setting up the time to do it and resources, And so my whole thing is like, I want there to always be a piece of equipment and a book at your place, let me know what it is, so I know what's missing, and we might need it back for this or that, but always have a book, always have a piece of equipment that you're learning both, so you're getting the most out of whatever time you're spending here.
Yeah, dude, I love that. I love that you dream like that, man. It's awesome. I want to ask some questions that the community have asked as we've been talking.
So, I don't even know. Is this on Facebook?
Yeah, it's on Facebook. So this is from Catherine Sywert. How do you create play in your personal life with your family and self outside of work? And how do you see playing in each helping to foster it in the other parts of your life? So like, let's just go like playing with your family. How does that look, and how does that affect eventually your work?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I don't know that I'm the best expert. I feel like every day I'm working on the dadhood stuff.
Yeah.
But I think just at the age of my kids are at right now, what I find that they need the most is really physical play,
Yeah.
And so honestly, they know if I lay down on the floor, it's on, you know what I mean? Like they kind of all it's just funny how there's a rug in our living room, and I go and I lay down, and then it's all out brawl, you know? And
Yeah.
so it's usually flips and gymnastic stuff that I'm just kind of like throwing them around or whatever else. And
Yeah.
so, and it's a consistent daily activity of getting that time in, you know? And so just setting aside and being willing to to, you know, I mean, maybe hurt my back or whatever, you know, like just
Yeah.
being willing to like get out there and try, especially the winter's the hardest, you know, because they're not getting their energy outside and stuff. So like I've got to commit myself to that time, and not just come home and sit on the couch and, you know, watch TV or even get work done around the house, you know, like
Yeah.
it's got to spend some specific time in some real physical play at their age. You know, I think it'll change as they're getting older and whatever else it might be. But right now they just need to be tickled until they're blue in the face.
Dude, I love that. So how does that like affect, I don't know, I mean, directly or indirectly, your ability to play and work or create awesome things?
Yeah. So I think I call it the toddler gym, right? So, um, if I make it to I try to go to the gym, you know, a few days a week, and then I try to do that in the middle of the day, right?
Yeah.
Because like I have a huge slump in the middle of the day,
Yeah, totally.
where it's just really hard to do anything creative and hard to stay awake. Honestly,
Yeah.
literally hard to stay awake. So you know, I try to do that, but whenever I don't do that, then like that's whenever I really need to make sure to make it to the toddler gym, you know? And
Yeah.
so like it affects my work in that way a lot of just being able to even myself like get some energy out and also just like seeing a kid like I don't know, I think any parent, maybe not any parent. I as a parent struggle with like the balance of getting our kids away from technology and, you know, all those things. And even myself, you know, I have an obsession with technology myself and I'm not setting a good example. Like that's a
Yeah.
huge struggle. So just unplugging from that and being physical, like definitely feeds into the art.
Yeah, I feel like it also, I mean, this is one thing that I keep kind of coming back to, but it also is like part of what you were saying before. If your kids and your wife like don't really care about your art the way that, you know, we kind of want them to, it's humbling, but it also is really freeing.
Yeah.
Like it's part of what gives you permission to create when you know that your identity and your love isn't dependent on your ability to create, which I
Yeah.
think like leads into this question from Frankie Kirketti. Is that, I have no idea how to say your last name, which I should, with my name being as weird as it is, but
Frankie K.
Frankie C.
Frankie C.
She says,
I didn't even get the first letter right.
she says, is all competition in art necessarily bad?
Probably not.
Probably not.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know.
Is that bad? Maybe I should think about that before. Let me think about it. There's got to be some good in there somewhere. It's not good for me, I think, is where I'm at right now. Like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't register for I don't like put anything in for film awards or any of that stuff. Like, it might be a season. I might be interested in that later. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But right now it's just, I'm much more joyful and happy avoiding it. So I don't know. I don't have a really good answer to that. I think it's good that people get recognized for their art in some competition, you know, like, yeah, you know, I think competitions do that, like recognize people for their art. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's actually kind of part of the reason why at the summit our awards are so ridiculous and silly. Like
Yeah.
uh last um last year you won the created book, the collaboration of the year, and the award was we invited everybody up that had participated in that to receive a spray painted gold Nerf gun, and then everybody like erupted into like big Nerf gun battle.
I don't even think I realized that. This is great.
Well, you weren't there. Your cutout was there.
Yeah,
which was also danced around in.
I did see that.
For
I've
sure.
never been a better dancer.
No, dude, it was amazing. But I think like the point when we were originally thinking about the summit and like giving awards to people, we just had this feeling of like, you know, we do enough competing as it is. And what we really need is, I think, to kind of have some of that humility of this is really just fun. And
I think competing and recognition is different. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I don't know. I think there's got to be a balance there. There's got to be some. I don't want to make a big claim. I just can speak from where I'm coming from.
I want to maybe say one thing about that too, if I could. Like, one of the things that has been really impacting to me about Cali Creatives, and I've been taught by the people in the community, especially like early on when we first put the community out there, like you, Dan Rogers, and JM Boyd immediately reached out and said like, hey, I want to connect with you. This is really cool what you're doing. Like, I want to talk. And in all of those conversations, everybody said a few things that really, I don't know, just like have echoed through the whole journey. And like, it was really like, I want to celebrate you for your work. And I want to celebrate you for like the things that you're amazing at and that you're bringing to the table. But like, the better that you are, the better we're going to be. And I didn't like totally fully understand that, but it was like these guys that I looked up to you a lot, Cory, at the time. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe Cory Heimann's talking to me, you know? And it was like your whole approach was not competitive at all. Like, you were really welcoming and just honoring to me and have celebrated the things that I've done that have been awesome. And that's like, that encouragement has been a major reason why I feel like I've been able to achieve what I've been able to with Sherwood Fellows and the work that we've done. And I guess like second thing I would say is in any workplace, I think the most damaging thing that can happen is for a team of people to be competing with each other for their idea, or for their like, you know, if your value is tied to winning, you're going to fight everyone else's ideas so that yours can win. And that's like, best idea wins means that you're not the one that's important. Like, winning is what's important. So like for Sherwood, I guess this has been a really interesting thing for us, but like this summer we went on a trip to Iceland. We spent $5,500 making a film that we got paid $3,000 to make.
Right. Classic business decision.
Yeah, exactly. But it was an investment in like us being a team. We'd gone through this core belief. One of our core beliefs is we play, and Anthony and I have not been playing well. So we were like, we're going to go and we're going to make this film, and it's going to be about us playing and not about us like making money. And so it was like really hard work. I mean, we were going hard every day. And one of the days we came, Anthony was sick, and he's kind of the slave driver of Sherwood Fellows for sure. So him being sick was a great thing for everybody that day. We went out, we had like a list of shots that we were going to get, and we spent like probably like 5 hours getting one shot that we came up with on the fly that was not on the list. And like, it was this, Augusta was in this gown dragging a rope, and we were just like trying to get these really weird abstract shots of like this rope being dragged across these rocks. So we were just getting super giddy and silly, and Connor and Cecilia at this point just like their loopiness just gets totally, like, it totally overwhelms them. And they just start to speak in French accents for like literally 3 hours. They're just
Yeah.
like, this is an existential shot of like this,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And by the end of that trip, dude, we were so tight that there was nobody cared
Mhm.
about their idea winning. Like we all just knew that we were so accepted and loved by each other that like anything that we could say or do was never gonna be uh make us not have that belonging. So when
Yeah.
it came to the next projects that we did, we were able to kick into gear in a way that like was actually kind of superhuman. The summit came up like in 2 months after that, and like
Mm.
shit was hitting the fan the week before.
Yeah. Of
The
course it
team,
was.
yeah, the team showed up like 2 nights before the summit happened, and there was all of this stuff that hadn't gotten done. There's several volunteers that like just for whatever reason like weren't able to kind of like lift the burdens that were there, and we just got together. We were talking in French accents, the Sherwood team, just several people who didn't even know what, like they hadn't been involved in like working on the summit, but we were just like, guys, everybody's got to be on go team right now. So like
Mm.
in my apartment, like we just stayed up until 4:30 in the morning, making signs, putting together lists, communicating, putting together emails, like just, and it was fun. Like it
Yeah.
was like we were playing with each other. It was work, but it was like pleasurable in a way.
Sure.
Um, and I just all that to say is like competition. I maybe there's other ways that it can be helpful, but I feel like um, what's better is knowing that you belong without having to perform for it. Like it has freed me up to be myself in a way that I've never been before.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. That makes perfect sense. Yeah, because of that permission back and forth, you know?
Right.
Uh yeah, that's great.
Yeah, man. So I know we're like kind of coming to the end of our time, but I would love to hear, a couple of the other, maybe some of the other dreams that you have for, your time in the community. You've been there kind of watching from the beginning. How has like Catholic Creatives affected your work and given you permission?
Yeah, I think one, the created book wouldn't have happened without the community.
Yeah.
And just like being able to I mean, my goal for that book was to just have a common set of values as a community. Like what is the number, just asking all these people that I respect, like what's the number one thing you would tell your fellow artists,
Mm, yeah.
Um
Can you
and so
just tell everybody what that is, just in case anybody doesn't know?
yeah, so the created book is a book of 62 different artists, right? And so the whole concept is the first 5 words of the Bible are in the beginning God created.
Mm,
And so when I read that at one point, like, I was just in Genesis, just happened to like be like, let's start the Bible over, and got 5 words in and like saw like, oh man, the first thing God said was about creating and about being an artist. And
yeah.
like that speaks straight to the artist's heart. And so what could that like what does that mean that God started everything with this message to creators saying like you are one with me, like
Right.
you are in my image and likeness. Like that's what those first 5 words are summed up. So I just went to all these people, all these artists that I respected and just liked their work, and I just asked them, what are your first 5 words to your fellow artists? These are
Yeah.
God's first 5 words. What are your first five? And so it's just a coffee table book with their first 5 words on the left, well designed, and then they break that down in a page on the right, kind of saying what it means to them and why they feel like other artists should adopt that as a value. So anyway, I really feel like that stemmed from the community and just
Yeah.
being able to pull in these different artists and honestly, like even just like so many people helped behind the scenes and
Yeah.
designing different pages and things like that of, maybe artists that were more writers and things like that. So I think that's a huge one. I have no idea. I feel like quite a few of our apprentices are coming, from the community. I think that's happened before for sure.
Yeah.
And that's been huge. And also just seeing, what's come about. I think anytime people are meeting up in person, I think that's been so huge. So the summits and the meetups, and being able to do those meetups and see people come in person, I think those are the most powerful moments.
Yeah. For you, like, I mean, you've been talking about this school for a while, but it's been a long time coming, and you're just now starting to talk about it. Like, where's the permission come for that idea, for that dream? Because I mean, it's a crazy thing to think. Like, I want to totally rethink Catholic education for artists. Like, that's a huge thing to want to fix. And I feel like for me, if I've thought that, and I've been like, I could never do that. Like, why were you able to kind of come to the point of just saying, yeah, this is worth pursuing?
I think part of it is dumb hubris.
Yeah.
But then part of it is just like, I mean, it was at a certain point where I turned down a couple of jobs, right? As I'd been doing this freelance thing for like 4 years. But honestly, every moment was, what does the next 2 months look like? What projects do I need to book? You know what I mean? And like, my mission was just finding people whose missions I agreed with and plugging into them. Like, that was my thing. Like, let's find people who I like really respect what they're doing, and I'll just try to help them do it with media, which we're still doing that work. But like, it was really at that point where I started to say, like, okay, what does 5-10 years look like, and not just the next 3 months? Like, what is my mission? What do I really care about? And like, and that's whenever I realized, like, oh, well, my mission is like, I just really care about raising up the next generation of artists. And I think if like we're complaining so much about how we're lacking beauty and so on and so forth, like, why is that the case? Why are we lacking beauty? And like, I think the answer is the people in the positions to be artists are working as button pressers oftentimes, and I think that's true in the church, and I think it's true in the wider culture.
What's a button pusher?
So what I mean by that is, like, the Pope puts out an encyclical, right? Let's say Laudato Si, right, about the environment. Yeah. And so somebody, maybe even somebody listening, I kind of hope not, but somebody says, okay, encyclicals go on this kind of paper with this kind of font on this color, and then we put it out in the world, and we just hope, please, somebody read it. Yeah. Like, that's a button presser. Like, oh, goodness. Like, but an artist looks at that problem and says, like, okay, let me read through this document. Let me understand it. How do we spread this word that he's trying to get across about the environment? What if we printed it on seeded paper that when you plant, sunflowers grow up? Or what if we did a film festival run? Like, those kind of questions. Like, that's how an artist, like, comes into that same exact problem, of like, how do I actually distill this message to touch people's hearts and like to shift them to understand truth? Like, that's like, let me start with beauty and lead to goodness and truth. Like, I can walk you down that pathway because my heart yearns the same way your heart yearns, like that. Like, a button presser doesn't think like that. Right. Yeah. And so I think it's really difficult to shift the mindset of these button pressers that are out there. Yeah. But I think it's completely possible to raise up the next generation to actually have values like an artist and have a common set of values and that kind of thing. And really, a part of it is coming down to like pushing back where pushback is needed, and saying, like, no, we need to do this in a way that really actually touches people's souls and touches people's hearts and speaks to people's minds, so that's where the whole vision started from, of just starting to see, like, okay, how do you most effectively raise up that next generation of artists? Like, what does that look like? And so that's taken me down a lot of roads of, learning about Montessori education and learning about just understanding better where college is at and kind of studying up on that kind of thing. And just trying to visualize what could it look like, and having lots of conversations of what does it look like to build the best system,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the system's definitely important, but part of it is, I mean, part of the brokenness of the current system is that it's personless. I
Yeah,
think, like
sure.
you,
And really great professors can revive college. Like that can
yeah,
happen, you know?
yeah,
Now it's not always happening, but it can
right. But like,
because that's the only place where that personal connection is made.
but for you, I mean, you've been apprenticing interns, and that has borne a ton of fruit. I mean, we're getting to work with JP Talty now. He moved down to Dallas. He was an intern with you,
Yeah.
and eventually, like, he worked with Life Teen. Like, he's had these opportunities where
Yeah.
he's been given permission to be himself, but he's also been like, in a way, you can't just be given permission over the internet. And that's
Yeah.
part of like kind of what you're saying about like this in-person stuff. Like, you've got to be with people to
Yeah.
be given permission to be yourself and to create. And for you, like, it's not enough for you to just like bring one or two people through the internship. Like, you want to bring a whole generation through that kind of personal apprenticeship type thing. So like that kind of blows my mind. And I'm really interested to hear like how you plan to set that up. But like what's the component of like community in that you see, or of like relationship in the solution? Does that make sense, or is that another one of my like crazy
Yeah.
questions?
Break it down a little bit more.
Yeah, okay, cool.
I
Yeah.
get the direction you're going, but go
Yeah.
ahead.
So like in um part of the problem that I see to the whole like the university slash school issue is you are to be shaped into a cog. Like,
Mm.
um college is definitely less so. Like, high school is way more that way. But when you get to a school um like UT, all these people that are like super high performers show up, and they're in these classes of 100 to 200 people, and you're just getting lectured. And then all you have is to, if you want to grade 200 things, it's got to be multiple choice. So
Right.
you can go through a, a university without ever having a real relationship. Whereas like apprenticeship is powerful because it's relational,
Yeah.
not just a multiple choice.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think you're completely right. How the importance of that. And then another thing that we've been realizing is just the importance of two-way mentorship, right? And
Yeah.
so like I think a lot of times we talk about mentorship and we see this one-way road constantly.
Yeah,
But what
totally.
I've found really beautiful is whenever you can set expectations and set up a pathway for people to see two-way mentorship, right?
Yeah.
And so where students are helping students and students are helping, teachers, like that kind of thing. Like my goal always with bringing an apprentice is to find someone who has some skill that I don't have that I can learn from them, right? Like that's a big portion because first of all that helps me in my growth, but also like when they see that two-way that it builds trust. Like a two-way road builds trust constantly,
Yeah.
and so I don't know if that exactly answers your question, but I think that's a huge component of that relational
Yeah.
aspect is to recognize the need for those two-way mentorships.
Right. When you like, have you seen that happening in any of your relationships with your apprentices? Or like, what's a time that you've seen that happening? The
So yeah,
two-way mentorship.
I think it happens every single apprentice that I have come in here,
Yeah.
and I even think of like when we launched the created book, right? I brought in Maggie, specifically because I'm not an organized guy, right? And
Mhm.
she could run a spreadsheet like no other, and so I've going
Yeah.
through, we have a lot of applicants, which is great. You know what I mean? Like we
Yeah.
kind of get like a dozen applicants for every hire that we bring on. And so I interviewed her. I saw her skills, her art skills, like I had plenty to teach, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they weren't like blow you out of the water necessarily, but her organizational skills, like, and she taught me a lot in that realm, and I think with every single apprentice that had come in, like I definitely learned something. Mark Guiney, um,
Yeah.
who came in, like, and actually Mark and Maggie overlapped for a while, and so to see their two-way mentorship going back and forth was really huge. But Mark was an excellent writer,
Yeah.
so like to just be able to be like, hey, teach me about what you know about story structure. He'd already written 2 novels,
Yeah.
and so just to be like, I have so much to learn in that area from you, and to be just willing to soak that up. I think being ready for that is really important.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, that's what I've felt like from you anytime that we've gotten to talk. Like, you've always been such a learner. You always come in asking questions as opposed to like with answers for them. Um,
Mm,
and yeah, I just appreciate that so much. But it's also like that's what I see kind of in a way. You have and several other people in the community, like the glass canvas guys are totally this way too, but
mm,
like you guys have modeled to me and to so many people is like being learners, having it be like, I'm not here as your hero. I'm here to learn something and I
mm,
do have things to offer you. But like in relationship with each other, when we're all learning and encouraging and giving permission, like we're all going to be a million times better.
yeah.
you know and that's, dude, that's what's happened for us. I mean, I feel like being a part of this community has made me not only a better human but like a better artist by like leaps and bounds.
Yeah. Better humans make better art.
Amen, dude. Well,
For
this has been
sure.
great. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground, so I'm gonna call it there and let us. Yeah, is there anything that you're really excited about right now that you want to tell people about, or things that you want people to go follow that you're working on?
Oh man. I mean, I don't know. The self-promotion thing I'm probably could be better at. But if the education aspects interest you, let us know. I think we just did our first live event, which I think we're gonna eventually tour with. We're kind of working on a media package and putting that all together of Darkness Has Not Overcome, which was a whole live event with light and darkness and live art. And it was just something really unique and that we've never done before. So we did that in New York a couple months ago for our first run of that. And I think just trying to shape it and make it into something that we're really proud of. And honestly, I am really proud of what came about of that. So that's really exciting. It even touches on, the pre-scandal, and we spent like 20 minutes of that event just on that, because I just feel like that's where people's hearts are, and to be able to like just bring a little bit of healing to that, and to
Yeah,
see it with real eyes,
yeah,
is important. So yeah, if that's something that people are excited about with live music, live art, if you're like, oh man, we need that event in our town, then give me a message and I'll send some stuff over to show you what we're cooking up, that kind of thing.
yeah, dude, that's awesome. Love it. Um, yeah, man. Also, I mean, I don't know if you're ready to put this out there, but you guys are going to be hosting one of our regionals, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So our hope is to actually do a dark, this is the hope. So it's not
Yeah,
scheduled yet. We're actually my brother is looking into buying a building to kind of get people together as a community, get some freelancers in there and some ministries into one building. So we're sharing resources, especially, just media resources and those kind of things, but also
yeah,
brain power. But what we would like to do is run a regional and do it on community and work community. And our hope is to do a whole weekend of it where we do Darkness Has Not Overcome, do that one evening, and then the next night we do the regional meetup. So that's the
dude.
hope.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
We when we were like talking through this, we have about 10 regionals that we're going to be putting on this year, and they're going to basically be like mini summits that are more for like people in a location like Texas or
Yeah.
whatever, and I mean anybody can come to any of them, but um like part of the thing that we've been seeing is that you know we can we can definitely keep putting on the summit and making that huge and just inviting like everyone to it, but I think there's so much more power to like in-person community that can be sustained. And so anyway, like that's a part of our heart for the next year that we'll get into at the when we talk about the future at the State of Communion. But like when we were laying out the year and looking at all of these awesome events that people want to go to or want to create, I was just like, oh shit, like I can only pick 2 of these, you know? Like,
right.
I'm like so bummed. So yeah, Anthony called dibs already on yours, and I'm just already feeling left out. You know?
Well, maybe you might have to both come. Who knows?
Yeah, dude. So when's it gonna be?
We'll try to come up with an excuse. We're looking at June at the moment. So we don't have a date nailed down, but the hope is the hope is as soon as we can. So everything moves, especially with what we're trying to do, with what he's trying to do with real estate and stuff. Everything moves a little slower than you're used to. But at the same time, even if that doesn't work out, I'd love to pull the trigger and make things happen. So,
dude, we will definitely do what we can to help. But for all of you guys that are really excited about that and want to like stay up to date, if you guys go to CatholicCreatives.com and just like fill out one of our newsletter forms, or sign up even like during the festival right now, you can go and sign up for our raffle. Anything that you sign up for, you can find out more information, because we're going to be sending out all of these dates as they come up over the next couple next couple weeks. So just go get in our database and you will be the first to know about one of the events that's happening near you. So I'll put the self-promotion out there.
Yeah.
If you're not there. So anyway, really appreciate you coming on, man. This has been really fun. I always learn so much from you, man. It's awesome.
Thanks, man. No, the pleasure's mine. It's wonderful to chat. Let's chat again soon.
All right, dude. See you later. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Peace, y'all.